Hi everyone, I'm Miss Kaylee. I'm a fully qualified international school teacher, now tutoring children online, and I specialised in early years when I was at university. So this is a video explaining how to get started with teaching your child phonics, how to get started teaching your child reading and writing. So phonics, we split it into different phases. Phase one, the first thing that they learn before they really even think about letters and sounds and the alphabet is just sound discrimination. So that's just exposing your child to music, musical instruments, different voices. You can teach them to sing the alphabet, different songs, etc. But in phase one, you don't really need to worry about teaching them the letter sound combinations. That's what we go into in phase two. So phase two is showing the children the letters of the alphabet and teaching them that each one is linked with a sound. Now notice I'm saying sound, not the name of the letter. We're not teaching them A, B, C. We're teaching them the sound that the letters make, like A, B, K. So you do this, not actually working through the sounds, the letters of the alphabet in the usual alphabetical order. Usually we follow a different order. As you can see on the screen, we start with S, then move on to A, T, P, I, N. The reason we do this is that we're starting, instead of starting with the alphabet, we're starting with sounds that children are likely to hear more often in the English language, and also that are more distinctive and easier for them to learn. So it starts off a bit more straightforward and gets more complicated and more difficult as they progress through the phase. In phase two, after they've learned the first few letters, sound combinations, you can start introducing them to CVC words. So that's consonant, vowel, consonant words. So, for example, after they've learned S, A, and T, you can teach them sat, sat, and you're teaching them the sound and then how to blend them sounds together to read the word. So segmenting, that is when you give them the word and they have to split it into the sounds to write it down. So you give them the word tap and they separate it into t, ap. So you do lots of modelling of this. So that's to get started on writing, and then blending, that's getting started on reading. So showing them a word written down like pat and asking them to split it into the sounds, say the sound that goes with each letter, and then try and blend those sounds together to read the word. Something else we focus on during phase two is we start teaching children the high frequency words. This here is a list of the high frequency words. So these are basically words that are really common in the English language, but that are not necessarily phonetically decodable. You'll notice that lots of these words are quite tricky for children to read because the sound isn't what they learn when they first start learning phonics. It's a sound that they might come across later on when learning different spelling rules or learning some of the later phonics phases. So we also call these tricky words or sight words. We can call them sight words because basically the children just have to learn to recognize them by sight. So the best way to do that is showing them a new word each day and practicing remembering how to say what that word is, and each day also recapping the previously learned ones. There's lots of games and things you can play practicing that. So that's phase two. So phase two, they learn the sounds and that go with the letters. They start learning to read and write consonant, vowel, consonant words, and they start learning to recognize those high frequency words. After they have got confident with these sounds in phase 2, you can move them onto phase 3. This is where they basically learn digraphs, which is 2 letters that make one sound, or trigraphs, 3 letters that make one sound, and their corresponding sounds. At this point, you can also start teaching them how to construct sentences. So lots of story reading or telling stories and getting them to write sentences down, think of a sentence and then write it down as best they can using what they've learned so far in phonics. So here we have a sound mat showing the phase 3 phonics digraphs and trigraphs. You'll notice also there's some of the more difficult graphemes in here as well, more difficult letters. So what will you need to start teaching your child to read and write? There are so many resources, thousands of resources out there, but you don't actually need a lot of them, and a lot of things you can make yourself. I would say you're going to need some flashcards. So flashcards showing the sounds and showing the letters for phase 2. So focus on the lowercase letters at first because they're going to be more important. Later on, when you start teaching the children the letter names, you can also introduce them to the capital letters. But first of all, I would always focus on lowercase letters. They're more important. So yeah, some cards showing the letters and pictures to help them remember what sound goes with that letter. And also some CVC word cards. So ideally ones where you've got a short CVC word and a picture, but also some that you can play match-up games with. So maybe you've got a picture on one card and the word on another card. Again, you might be able to make these yourself. Also, flashcards showing the high frequency words is ideal because each day you're going to try and introduce a new high frequency word and review the ones that they've learned previously, but you don't want to introduce them all at the same time, so just one at a time. I really like Flipgrids. Again, you can make these yourself. You don't need to use them, but I think they're very good for helping children see how changing one letter affects the way you say the word. So just practicing changing one letter at a time and then reading and saying the word helps them get into that pattern of reading. Sound mats are great. You don't need them, but they're good. They're useful to have on hand, especially just because they show you the order that you're working through everything. These are my own. I will put a link in underneath the video for you to download these from my Teachers Pay Teachers website should you wish. And then you're going to need some writing tools, paper, pencil, crayons, pens, whiteboards, and whiteboard pens I really love. But yeah, lots of different writing tools. Get them familiar and practicing using all the different kinds. You can also do things like drawing the letters in the air, or drawing the letters in sand, or shaving foam, or flour, etc. And books, just exposing them to books, let them see you reading, model tracing the words with your finger as you're reading to them so they can see which direction we read in. Talking about storylines is all really important for their comprehension skills later on. Some activities you can do to get children reading and writing. So start off, once you teach them a letter, I teach them a new letter each day, and then every sort of 4 or 5 days I review the letters that I've done so far that week. And I also do 5 minutes of reviewing at the start of each session as well. Each session only needs to be sort of 20-25 minutes. But once you've introduced them to a new letter and the sound it makes, hunting for that sound out in the world, in your environment, trying to find it in books or on signs, and yeah, just trying to get as familiar as possible with that letter, practicing going through all the sounds and letter combinations that you've looked at before, review them each day, use the sound cards, show them a sound, get them to say the sound, show them a letter, get them to say the corresponding sound, and vice versa. Writing the letters, working on their fine motor skills. If they're struggling to hold the pen and do writing, look up fine motor skill activities to help them. Reading and writing different CVC words. You say a word, get them to write it down, or show them a word and ask them to practice reading it. And lots of story time. Okay, yeah, so that's everything about the very basics of teaching your child to learn to read and write. I will put some more videos up with a bit more detail. If you like resources, they'll put a link in below for my Teachers Pay Teachers website. You can also contact me for online tutoring or if you've got any other questions.